Hello everyone, welcome to another Heroes of the Grid Ranger video. Last time I covered Billy Cranston, the Mighty Morphin Blue Ranger, and today I thought I would do his partner in crime, or partner in science, I should say, Trini Kwan, the Mighty Morphin Yellow Ranger. Now, I forgot to mention in the last video for Billy's that each combat deck only has 20 shields worth of cards in their decks. Now Billy has 3 1-shield cards, 4 2-shield cards, and 3 3-shield cards in his deck, which consists of 20 shields altogether, and that's the standard rule for the majority of the Rangers in this game. However, there are a few that, while they still have 20 shields, they don't have the exact same ratio. Trini was the first of that, to start that. She actually has 8 2-shield cards in her combat deck, 1 1-shield card, and 1 3-shield card. And that's just a little thing I wanted to point out. So when you're playing Trini, she is not necessarily a good defender because she doesn't have a lot of 3 shields. So that is not one of her strategies. Again, just want to point that out. Now, moving on to Trini specifically, Trini is all about the number 2, basically. Her general strategy, well, let me read her character card, her first one, Double Strike. Once per battle, after you play a card, you may immediately play another card with the same name. So as you can see, if you play one of her combat cards, if you happen to have a second one with the same name in your hand, you can immediately play it right away. Again, it's only once per battle, but that's still very good. This goes into that strategy, like I said, of her doubling basically everything. Not necessarily damage, but just doubling whatever she does. Her secondary strategy, based on what I've seen and played, is kind of keeping her deck replenished, kind of replenishing her own deck. She's not good at defense, but since she can play multiple cards at the same time, she goes through her deck a little faster, so she needs to constantly be putting cards back in her deck. And funny enough, she also kind of has a third strategy. I mean, I say it's funny because her strategy is mostly 2s, but she has a third strategy of drawing cards too. Because again, since she's playing a lot of cards, if she's playing multiple cards from her hand, she doesn't have a lot of cards. After she does one move, she's kind of depleted, so she needs to draw cards so she can keep participating in the fight to help her team. But you'll see this how I came to those conclusions as we go through her combat deck. Now the first card is going to be Precise Strike. It's a 0-cost attack card that does a guaranteed 2 damage. It's 2 shield. Its ability is, after you play this card, you may spend 1 energy to shuffle it back into your deck instead of discarding it. Now, I did not mention this in Billy's video, but guaranteed damage is extremely valuable in this game because, I mean, like in any game, we have to roll dice. You never know if you're going to roll blanks, but having guaranteed 2 attack is great, especially against foot soldiers, because there are some that only have 2 hits, so you can just do some quick damage, take out. And using Trini's ability, if you have a second Precise Strike in your hand, you can play it immediately, potentially take out 2 foot soldiers if they're low enough, or maybe even take out a monster card that only has 4 health. You play 2 of these, and then if you want to spend 2 energy, you can place them back on top of your deck. So if you do want to take some damage, you can, or if you just want to draw them again with one of her other cards, you can do that as well. Very good card. And you don't necessarily even have to spend the energy if you just want to do some quick damage, just leaving your discard pile for a while. Next card is going to be Twin Fang Teamwork. It's a reaction. Play this card after another ranger resolves an attack, deal 1 damage to the target of that attack. So if your teammate was fighting an enemy card and only has 1 hit left, you can always play Twin Fang Teamwork to deal that extra last bit of damage to them. Remember, it has to be to that exact same target that they were attacking. So you can't use Twin Fang Teamwork to get rid of a foot soldier that has some damage left, unless he was the original target of the attack. Since this is a reaction card, if you have 2, you can play them both from your hand if the enemy still has 2 hits left. Actually, this would be a great card to use against that other card that I was talking about, the iGuy card in the last video that I was talking about. Let's say Billy used his counter jab. They did 1 damage to it. Trini could use Twin Fang Teamwork to deal another 1 damage, and then if she had a second one, she could play it again because it's a separate reaction, interaction, I guess I should say. It would deal that last bit of damage and take it out. And since this is a reaction card, you don't have to use Trini's ability in order to play it. You can use as many reactions as you want, as long as the criteria to play them has been met. So, really good card. You might think it's only 1 damage, but 1 damage can really make all the difference in this game. Trust me. Oh, you know what? Actually, I don't think I went over Twin Fang Teamwork, let me really fast, is a 0-cost reaction card with 2 shields for defense. So keep that in mind. I don't think I said that at the beginning. Now we'll move on to Tenacity, which is a 0-cost maneuver card, 2 shields for defense. Its ability is to gain 1 energy, choose 2 cards from your discard pile, and return them to the top of your deck in any order. So this is the kind of the main card that I said it helps in terms of replenishing her deck. I mean, Precise Strike lets you put it back into your deck, but at the cost of an energy. This one actually has you gain an energy, and you can choose any 2 cards from your discard pile and return them to the top of your deck. So if you do have your 1 3-shield card, you can use it to build a solid defense. Or if you want to get back your Twin Fang Teamwork or your Precise Strike, you can use that, so that way you don't have to spend the energy to put it back on top of your deck, or to shuffle it back into your deck. Tenacity, yeah, it's a really good card. Again, it doesn't actually do any damage, so you're kind of, you're not wasting a turn per se, but you or one of your teammates are going to be taking damage, most likely because you didn't do any damage to the enemy card that's coming up next. So just keep that in mind. Next is Sabertooth Strike, a 1-cost attack card. Has 2 dice for attacks to attack with, and it has 2 shields for defense. Now, its effect is if this attack defeats the target, you may immediately perform a second attack with 2 dice. So again, this is another double attack situation, as long as you take out the opponent. It's only 2 dice. Unfortunately, it's not the standard 3 dice for 1 energy, but it's a fair payoff because you get to perform a second attack if you take it out. So let's say you have maybe a foot soldier that's guarding a target that you want to take out. You roll 2 dice, take it out with, let's say you roll 3, you get lucky and roll 3 hits, you take out the foot soldier that's guarding. Now you can perform a second attack to target the one you really want to be getting rid of. It's only 2 dice, but you can always modify it with other cards. So we'll get to the ranger that's in this team that really helps with dice rolls later on in the series. Yeah, so it's again in a 2 dice, 2 attacks with 2 dice potentially. Very good card. Next is the Blade Blaster. Every Mighty Morphin Ranger has a Blade Blaster. It's the same as Billy's. X cost, special attack. This attack deals an amount of damage equal to the amount of energy spent to play this card. You may divide this damage among any number of targets. This is the 1 shield card in her deck. The only 1 shield card in Trini's deck. And yeah, like I said, same strategies apply. Now I didn't mention in Billy's. Every team has like a general card kind of like this, but not necessarily Blade Blaster, but a card that at least the main team in that season will have this team card kind of. Let's say, just jumping ahead a little bit, Zero has what's called the Power Pot Sword. And Mighty Morphin has Blade Blaster, one that every ranger in the core team has. These cards don't play into the character-specific strategies. They're just good general cards that any ranger in the team can make use of. It works better for some than it does others, but I mean, it doesn't hurt any ranger inherently. They're all good cards to play. So another thing just to keep in mind, Blade Blaster, like I said, doesn't really work with Trini specifically, or didn't work with Billy specifically. It's just a general all-around card for any ranger on that team. Finally, we go to her power weapon, which are the Power Daggers. It is a 3-cost, 4 dice attack, and 3 shields for defense. This is her only 3 shield card. Its effect is after you resolve this attack, a ranger of your choice may immediately play 1 card. This is another double situation. You play this card for 4 dice, you're most likely going to take out what you're attacking, unless it has more than 4 hits. And then another ranger can play another card, whether you want to do another attack, or if you want to, let's say, use Trini to maybe play her Tenacity to gain a couple cards back, put it back on top of her deck in any order, or use Billy's Knowledge is Power that I mentioned in the last video, so any ranger can draw another card and gain an energy, so you get some of that energy back. This is just a really good card, and great attack potential. Yeah, just a solid card. Solid power weapon. And Trini, her other character card that she received for the Once and Always special is, I've seen that before, I'm not afraid of it. Its ability is once per battle, after you deal at least 1 damage to an enemy card, you may deal 2 damage to another enemy card with the same name. So, once again, kind of dealing with two targets, dealing 2 damage to another card with the same name. So if you have 2, let's say, Flying Kick foot soldier cards, putty cards, let's say, well, it's just the same name, but could it actually theoretically be 2 different henchmen that have Flying Kick? I think the Rinchy have that card too. Probably another one I'm not thinking of, but 1 damage to take out, let's say, one of the foot soldier that only has 1 hit left, and then you can use take that out and then deal 2 damage to another card, as long as it has the same name. You could either you might take it out, or you might just deal some extra damage. It doesn't hurt to get ahead of the curve on dealing damage to enemies, especially if they haven't resolved yet, so that way you can stop them from actually getting their abilities to go off. Now that I've covered her combat deck and her character cards, I'm going to go over Trini's Zord cards. Now technically Trini in the series only had 2 Zords. She only ever piloted 2, but since she's Mighty Morphin Yellow in the game, she has access to 2 extra Zords. You have the option of choosing one of 4 Zords when playing as Trini. The first is her Saber-Toothed Tiger, her original Zord in Season 1. Its ability is exhaust this card during a battle to allow each participating ranger to draw up to 2 cards. Now this is a really good card, but you have to play it wisely. So every ranger that's participating in the fight can draw up to 2 cards. They can draw 2 cards, 1 card, or no cards if they don't want. Now this is great for someone like Trini or even Billy, who are constantly putting cards back into their from the discard pile back into their deck, but some rangers may not necessarily have the ability to be doing that as consistently, and so they may not want to be drawing cards because it depletes their deck, as they get further into a battle, especially against a boss or a monster. Now this is a card that I found can help really late into the game, after a lot of enemy cards have resolved already, and you just maybe need to deal a couple more bits of damage, but you ran out of cards in your hand, so you play Saber-Tooth Tiger, and any ranger can draw up to 2 cards, so now they have, and you still have some energy left, so hey, I have some more options to deal that last bit of damage. So I think it's a card that tends to work better later in a ranger battle, after when you're trying to do that last bit of damage, or if you want to just use it so when a ranger starts a fight, they won't draw the max number of cards in their hand, they might just draw 2 or 3, and they can use Saber-Tooth Tiger later if the rangers decide, I need to draw some more cards because I don't have the one that I need or I want, something like that. So there's options for this card. Just be careful, because if any ranger, even though it's the ranger's own card that's doing it, if it depletes their deck to 0, then they are knocked out of the battle. So just be very careful. Moving on to the Zord Trini got in Season 2, the Griffin Thunder Zord. The Griffin Thunder Zord, not she. The Griffin... Actually, I haven't quite made the connection between a Griffin and a Saber-Toothed Tiger. Unless I'm just not thinking hard enough, but... I guess they have sharp teeth. That's pretty cool. A Griffin... I know is a mythological creature. Maybe it had some kind of cat-like qualities to it, so that's probably the connection I'm missing here. Or maybe Griffin's a dragon. I don't know, actually. I'm not entirely sure what a Griffin is. But I have to double check. I think I might be getting mythological creatures. I think I might be thinking of a chimera, not a griffin. But either way, it has sharp teeth, so does the Saber-Toothed Tiger, so hey, that's a connection. Exhaust this card after any ranger plays a card. That ranger may immediately play another card with the same name. Then that ranger may draw 1 card. So let's say Trini's low on cards. So she plays Tenacity to gain 1 energy and then choose 2 cards from her discard pile and place them on top of her deck. Then she plays the Griffin Thunder Zord to play another Tenacity from her hand to get 2 more cards back into, gain 1 more energy and get 2 more cards back, put them on top of her deck, and then she may draw 1 card. And if she played them, since she could place them on top of her deck in any order with Tenacity, she might decide to put her Power Daggers on top to have that be the card that she draws. And then so she'll play that on her following turn to deal some damage, and then another ranger can play another card for some extra, either energy, damage, or any other strategy that rangers want to use. So the Griffin Thunder Zord is actually a very, very good card. I don't think I've actually used it myself yet. I don't use Trini that much. That's all, I don't use, honestly, Billy all that much. I have so many rangers I haven't used. I tried to use once that I still haven't gone through all the rangers I have. So I'm trying to just use rangers I haven't used before. I've only used Trini once, maybe twice when I first started playing the game. But yeah, the Griffin Thunder Zord, yeah, it's a really good card. Especially if you use it in conjunction with Trini, some of her cards. But again, it can be used with any ranger. Just remember, the ranger that plays the second card, it has to be the same ranger. It can't be 2 rangers that happen to have the same card with the same name. Like the new Thunder Brothers from Ninja Storm. They have a card that has the same name in both their decks that do the same thing. But since this card specifically says that ranger, that means the ranger that played the initial card. Now moving on to Season 3, Trini did not actually pilot this sword, but again, since she's Mighty Morphin Yellow, she has access to it in this game. The Yellow Bear Ninja Sword. Its ability is exhaust this card during any ranger turn in battle. Any ranger may choose 2 cards with the same name from their discard pile and add them to their hand. So this is actually a really This is another really good card. I haven't used the the yellow Ninja Zord either. So in terms of Trini, let's say, I mean, she has lots of 2 shield cards. She can bring both her tenacities back. If she wants to play them, she could bring back her Twin Fang Teamworks, bring them to her hand if she knows her teammate's going to be going for an attack on a tough target. So she can get both of them back in her hand and deal a couple chip damage here and there if she needs to. Her Precise Strike, she can use that if she has the energy, and she can just deal an automatic 4 damage to one target or deal 2 damage to 2 different targets. So many options for using the Yellow Bear Ninja Zord. Very useful. Finally, the final Zord Trini can pilot is the Yellow Shogun Zord. Now, its abilities: exhaust this card at the start of any Ranger turn in battle. Choose a Ranger, gain 1 energy each time the chosen Ranger plays a card during this turn. So yeah, this actually works really well with her strategy. Let's say you play the Shogun Zord first, the Yellow Shogun Zord, then you would do the Precise Strike, deal 2 damage, spend that energy that you gained to put it back into your deck instead of discarding it. Then you use Trini's ability to play her second Precise Strike, and then if you want to spend another energy to put it back into your deck, or you might not because you might have Tenacity you can use to bring it back instead, or you can use it at the start of when you know another Ranger's going to attack because you're going to play Twin Fang Teamwork. Now, it wouldn't work with Sabertooth Strike unless you use the Trini's ability to play a second Sabertooth Strike, but what I mean is that Sabertooth Strike ability wouldn't activate the Shogun Zord's gain energy because it's perform a second attack using the same card. And Yellow Shogun Zord only works every time the chosen Ranger plays a card during their turn. So you could theoretically gain 4 attacks as long as you're defeating targets using Trini's ability, but you'd only gain 2 energy from the Shogun Zord. But still, that's good because it would basically offset the cost of playing both Sabertooth Strikes. So yeah, it's a really good card, especially with Trini. And I think that's just about it in terms of Trini. Let me know if I missed anything in the comments. Like I said, I've only used Trini once, maybe twice. And that's only because, I just want to use all the Rangers that I have, and I haven't gotten around to it. I don't get to play very much, so when I do, I like to use one of the Rangers I haven't gotten a chance to play with, just to try out their strategies. But yeah, she's a really good member of the team. She's a little unorthodox, I'd say, compared to the rest of the Rangers, because her multiple strategies aren't quite as obvious, but they do blend well together. Just remember that she's not a defensive character for the most part. While she can replenish her deck pretty well, a lot of them are only 2 shields, so she's not going to be tanking a lot of huge attacks. You don't want her to, because you want her to be drawing the cards instead of... You want them in her hand because she can play multiples in one turn, so you don't want her to be sending her cards to the discard pile from the deck. But yeah, like I said, let me know if I missed anything. I'll be back next time. I think I'm going to be covering Zack next video, so head on over to OnceARanger.com, check out the database for the Heroes of the Grid, and thank you for watching.